Welcome to the Brown Spade Podcast Show. Today we have a special guest today, and we will invite her. So before we begin, let me say this. We will be talking about, the subject today is mental illness. So it's all around us. It's on the jobs. It's at the schools. We hear professional athletes, they go through mental health as well. So a lot of times we take it for granted. So today, but before we start, Okay. So, again, welcome to the Brown Spade Podcast Show. Today we have Miss Valdesha DeJean.
Yes.
And she's a medical therapist, correct?
I'm a psychiatrist as well as a psychotherapist.
Okay. And I, of course, I have my brother from another mother, Cleveland, my co-host. What's going on?
How's everybody doing?
We're good. Okay, so Cleve, you want to start this off?
Well, I really want to thank you for coming on, Valdesha, because today, I think this is going to be a great show, because this is something that in our community that we've been discussing and talking about for the longest. And a lot of times, like for instance, with me, in the beginning of, me going through my divorce and everything, I was scared to seek counseling, which it was good because, it was some things that I was dealing with, but I didn't really realize that I was going through the things I was going through because I felt like I was fine. But once I started seeing the therapist, she started tapping in on just things that I was dealing with that I never paid no attention to. Mm-hmm. So, once again, thank you for coming, Dr. DeJean. But I want to know, one of the things I want to know is, how do you go about looking for a therapist?
That is a really great question, because I know it's for some people so hard to make that first step into someone's office. So there are some really great resources online that you can find a therapist. So Psychology Today is one of my favorites. So if I'm looking for a therapist to outsource psychotherapy for one of my patients, maybe they're not a good fit for me for therapy, but I can do medication management with them, I use Psychology Today. On that website, you can filter out what you want. You can filter out your insurance company. You can filter out, I want a male or a female. I want a black male. You can go and look gender specific and go through all of the filters to kind of tailor make the type of therapy you want, even in terms of what they specialize in. So I really like that resource. I also like Therapy for Black Girls. You can find, especially for the African-American community, you can find a therapist or psychiatrist through that resource. There's even one for men. So Therapy for Black men is also a great resource. Now, but nothing beats someone who also has that personal experience with a therapist. So if you know someone that you've seen grown psychologically, and you're just seeing something change in them, and they struggle, I would ask them, where did you go to get your help? Because you're more likely to feel more comfortable going to someone that has helped someone else that you love.
So I have a question to piggyback off what Cleveland just asked. Mm-hmm. So what if a person doesn't have insurance? Is it expensive?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. So it can be expensive, but expensive is relative, right?
Okay.
A lot of people will say, oh, that's too expensive, but they will spend $150 on some shoes, on a purse. It's expensive. The average range when you're seeing a new psychiatrist out of pocket could be anywhere from $200 to $350
per visit.
For your first initial visit. The initial visit is longer, so it usually takes a little bit more thorough assessment, so they charge more. And then the range for follow-up, if you're paying out of pocket, could be anywhere from 100 to 200.
Okay.
But the people don't, when you think about it, it's like, what do you value? There's no better investment than your own mental health, right? So I always think it's interesting how people will complain about, paying for a psychiatrist, but I remember one day someone was complaining and they crossed their legs and I saw red bottoms,
Right.
shoes. So, it's really about placing more value on something that's so critical. What could be more important than your mental health?
So if a person going through these classes, therapy sessions, how long should a person go through their sessions before they're supposed to be refined?
Oh, that's a great question too. So it varies for different people. It depends on the level and severity of trauma you've had in your life, what the issue is,
But the average, just average. So how much? I mean, how long length of time?
I would say you could. Most people will need 6 months to a year or more. There are some people they need to be in therapy for 3 to 5 years, depending on what they're dealing with. But 6 months to 1 year is really good therapy. But there are people who specialize in short-term therapy, and so 3 months is like the gold standard for short-term therapy.
Right.
And I have known, people to go through therapy for years, which is fine to me, because to me, I figure there's nothing wrong with you going to sit down and talk to someone, because we go through things, daily, weekly, yearly, all the time. Things change. You could lose a loved one and that boom, that'll reset you. So different things will set you back. So for me, I think that a person should continue to seek therapy. It's just like a car. Your car, you take it in, get a tune up, every time you need, get an oil change every time you need, get tires, and I feel like it's the same thing with us. But I do know people who will marry, they will be married to their therapist. I mean, that's their relationship. Yeah. And I mean, they've been in therapy for 10 years, and I'm like, okay, when are you going to
you have lost a dependency on the therapist. So that's a good point. You should have some established goals and work towards reaching that goal. So I agree with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, doctor, how long have you been in this profession?
About 16 years I've been practicing.
Okay.
That's good.
And one of the things I have noticed just from listening to social media and watching social media, since the pandemic and everything hit, have you noticed a difference as far as the numbers in the Black community, in our community? Have you noticed a difference in the numbers of people who are coming to therapy, who have came to you?
Absolutely. It was interesting when I was right before the pandemic, I was working 2 jobs. I was in private practice and working part-time for an agency. And I had to stop the part-time work because the patients were flooding in, especially during the lockdown period. So people were so distressed and scared. So yes, definitely an increase in general, but also definitely an increase in the minority population. And for some people, it became more acceptable because mental health issues were being talked about more openly because everyone was experiencing this collective trauma, shared suffering, right? So it seemed as if more people were just more comfortable taking that step as well.
Yeah. I believe that poverty also has a big problem. It brings mental illness to our community as well. What is your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. I call it the trauma of scarcity. Even I didn't grow up very wealthy or anything. So, I can even catch myself getting triggered with certain things, if it seems like there's a threat to my financial security or something comes up, even though I don't have that to worry about. So that stuff weaves into the fabric of your psyche.
Mhm.
So absolutely, there's a huge link between poverty, and we're seeing that even the rates of people unemployed in the pandemic are having more struggles.
Right.
So definitely poverty, racism. These are all types of things that people don't usually consider to be trauma, but it is.
Yeah, I was doing a little something. They said 1 out of 5 Americans have experienced some form of mental illness, such as bipolar disorder or even schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
What are common causes of mental issues that we have?
So genetics plays a huge role in your potential of being susceptible or vulnerable to mental health issues.
Yeah.
The environment that you're in currently, and also the environment you grew up in, childhood experiences, childhood trauma,
right.
How you choose to use your body. Like, are you taking care of your temple? Are you using a lot of recreational drugs? So that can certainly predispose people and put them more at risk. And even the style of the way you think, are you more positive in your outlook on life, or are you more of a negative, pessimistic kind of thinker?
Right.
All those things can impact the potential of developing a mental health disorder.
Yeah, and what I'm starting to see a lot of lately on the news is a lot of athletes are really going through it as far as mental health. And I know football, it's a very physical sport, and I know from concussions and stuff like that can cause trauma to your head, trauma to your brain, and also people go through depression and everything, with money and all that. Do you deal with a lot of athletes that actually go through depression and everything?
Yes, I've treated several athletes, former NFL players, former basketball players, people currently playing. So one of my specialty areas is professionals in crisis. So I see that, and I've seen cases of chronic traumatic encephalopathy. That's the diagnosis that was exposed in the movie with Will Smith.
Yeah.
So I've seen
that's CTE, right?
CTE, yes, where there's been cognitive changes because of too many concussions, too much injury to the brain, and that predisposes them to anger outbursts sometimes, depression, and the memory is not the same. So yes, we see that. And then even if they don't have cognitive or brain damage, there is a pressure of like, your life has changed drastically. Maybe you didn't make a lot of money, or maybe you were even in poverty, and then you're drastically wealthy. And that changes relationships. People respond to you differently. There's a pressure of the game, of the expectations of the people around you.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. We have the tennis player, Naomi Osaka. She's been dealing with a lot of mental stress lately, so she withdrawed herself from a few games as well.
Even the young lady, the gymnast, she also did the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, but I think hers was more of a being from the sexual predator thing, because she was young, getting into gymnastics.
Yeah, and people didn't even realize why Simone Biles is trying to perform on the national stage. She's in the middle of this trial.
Right.
So,
that's a whole other subject.
Sensitive. How can you even focus? Like you can't even drive.
Right.
If you're under that much pressure. Right. So let alone you flipping and jumping and kick like no, you can't. I seen that I seen a story on her, and it's sad. It's sad because people was coming down on her, and I'm like, she just wants to step away and get a peace of mind. She just wants to step away and get a peace of mind.
And it's the community, and the way people respond is the very thing that creates a barrier for people coming in, to get the treatment they need.
Right.
What are we doing as far as like for the community, to seek out help? Because I know like we talked about we talked about the price and everything, how much it will cost, because people say it is expensive, but is the community doing anything to where you can different programs that may help to help you to afford to get
Yes, there are some resources out there. Most counties have a service community board where you can get mental health treatment for free. So I know in Cobb County, where I live, there's a Cobb County Service Community Board. And if you don't have money, or you're not working, you can go get access to service there.
Right.
There are also like organizations in the community like NAMI, which stands for the National Alliance of Mental Illness. You can go to support groups there. They will try to connect you with providers in the community. And then there's Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, DBSA. So those are more like connecting you with resources. Certainly if people were already established with care with me, I would slide my scale just to, accommodate their period of unemployment. Some doctors, if you ask, they might be willing to work with you. This is and platforms like this are huge. So I really thank you guys for creating this. You're doing some great work. Because you're presenting a psychiatrist to the community that looks relatable.
Right. That's true.
People don't even know, wow, there's some people that look like me that exist, So
right.
This is one of the topics that we definitely like. We get on here and talk about it, but I'm like, then you have to get somebody that actually specializes in it.
So I have a question also. I know you mentioned something earlier about you said something about in the DNA of I guess the procreator, so to speak. So let's say Black people in America, I think we all have some of those mental illness dealing with those tragics from DNA. I think that's been passed on too. Do you think that is some truth to that?
Absolutely. There's actually been some research studies that have shown mutations, changes in the brain that you can actually trace because of childhood trauma. So this can certainly happen. And then you add on the genetic vulnerability of, parents and grandparents have had those illnesses. So you're certainly at risk when you add the environmental factors compounded on genetic.
Because they dealt with things and they never got any kind of therapy from it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So they had to, I guess, self-medicate however they dealt with it. Some of them probably dealt with it with alcohol. Some of them just drugs. Some of them probably took themselves in a serene place and didn't use any of that stuff, and they kind of worked themselves through it. But do you believe that people can work themselves through it without therapy? Because before once upon a time, there was no therapy.
That's a good point. There are factors for resilience. I think it's harder, but yes, you can work through something. I've seen people heal from their spiritual walk with God. They may have the support of a pastor or a church family. So there are things that can help you work through, but it's something powerful about psychotherapy. And like when you really get the right person to really unload and share your darkest secrets, your darkest thoughts, your struggles, I feel so fortunate because I am able to sometimes know people better than their own mother, their own best friend. Yeah. They'll tell me things they would never tell anyone.
Right.
And it's like their sanctuary. So yes, you can do it, on your own sometimes, but why make it harder when there are resources out there that are therapeutic,
Right. I mean, I agree. I'm just asking. It was just a question.
Yes. And Dr. DeJean, how do you feel about meditation as far as because I know when excuse me, before I even started going to therapy, before I got my divorce or whatever, I was meditating because I was reading up on meditation, what it could do. But do you advise people to take on meditation?
Absolutely. Meditation, mindfulness, those are ways that you can soothe and regulate emotions. Yeah. So I certainly try to integrate that into treatment guidelines.
Yeah. I do my little affirmations.
Yeah. I used to meditate twice a day for 20 minutes. And when I first started doing it, seemed like it take a long time. But then all of a sudden it started boom, like the minutes go, that your mind is jumping. And all it does is reset, because that's the only time that your mind resets, Even when you sleep, your mind don't reset because it's thinking, it's moving.
Right.
Meditation was one of the things that I took on that it helped. It really did help. It helped me, as far even with eating, even with my eating, because that's one during the time I became vegan. And it helped with a lot. I mean, it helped with a whole lot.
I would imagine you slept better too.
Yes.
So what inspired you to be a therapist anyway?
So that's a great question. So I had an uncle who had schizophrenia. And when I was growing up, I knew something wasn't right. I didn't know what was going on. And I would ask my family members questions, and either they would not respond or change the subject. And I'm like, well, so here's stigma playing out within my own family.
Right.
And so it naturally made me curious, where I would go and start reading. I was just reading all about behavior and stuff like that. And then kind of co-occurring, I started realizing, like, I would sit on planes with people and they would literally tell me their life story. Right. And I would come ask my mom, like, is this normal for somebody to tell me that much information? She was like, no, you have a gift. For some reason, people open up to you. And so I just kind of naturally found my path. And it was kind of like turning my pain from seeing what my uncle was going through into purpose.
Right. So what are some of the stigmas that's associated with mental illness in our community?
This notion of crazy, that they're crazy, that's a stigma, that they're dangerous or they're weak. That's a big one.
Yeah, that is a big one. Yeah, that's a big one.
It's so unfortunate because it's perpetuated in families, it's perpetuated in the church.
Yes. With your uncle, just to piggyback a little bit, was he was he a military guy, or he was born that way?
No, he wasn't born that way. I think, around the teenage years and young 20s is when you're at risk. And actually 10% of the population, or roughly maybe 1 to 10%, can develop this illness, schizophrenia. So I just think, he just manifested the illness, later on in life. But he was not born in acting any unusual way or anything.
Gotcha.
And I've in the past, I say 10 years, I have known four people personally that I know that took on suicide.
Oh goodness.
Yes. And it's sad because two of the people, like, I really knew them, and you would never think that they would do this, because you think they have it together,
right?
What are some signs that will tell you that, hey, maybe this person needs to get help? And how would you go about trying to get a person to go get help without offending them? Or
right. So one major red flag for suicide is someone who's usually gregarious and involved and socially engaged, who starts to isolate. Sometimes they'll even tell you that their thoughts are negative. So they may start having more morbid thoughts. They may actually hint around death, They express feeling more helpless.
Right.
They may even call people to tell them goodbye. I hear that a lot, that they call and have this kind of weird, eerie call. So if you're feeling that, kind of hone into that. There may be some drastic changes in their appearance. If they're a substance user, like marijuana or any type of alcohol or other drugs, they're more at risk. If you've had previous suicide attempts, there's someone you really want to watch out for. Right. So those are kind of the main ones. Some may give away some prized possessions, you know, right before they make that decision. In terms of offering help, I would just gently, if you had your own experience with some type of mental health illness, I would offer that. Right. Because the first thing you want to do is to normalize this for them so they don't feel like an outsider. You can say that. You know, if it wasn't you, I was struggling, or my mom used to struggle, or someone you know, and they got better. So you're kind of lending them some hope.
Right.
You want to lend them hope. You want to normalize it for them. And you want to offer to be there. Like, I will take you to the doctor. I will help you find the resource. Because a lot of times they're so down and out that they don't even have the energy to try to go find someone.
Right.
So offer to go to the appointment with them.
Right. Let me ask you this too, Doc. Okay, now we were in this era where it kind of reminded me of Prohibition days, where now marijuana is being slowly legalized in different states. And I think a lot of people now, they gravitate toward the marijuana thing, and not just that. So they're basically trying to, I guess, self-medicate themselves herbally. They call it, you know, herbalist or whatever.
Yes.
And by you being a professional, what is your take on that?
So there is some controversy even within the field about how helpful marijuana is.
Yeah.
And when you asked that question, I even got nervous because people get offended about that marijuana.
Yeah. But you know what? Before you begin, I don't think that's the answer for everybody. I think it may help some people. I don't think it helps everybody. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think some people just want to do it just for the sake of doing it because that's what they want to do. And they think they're really medicating themselves, but I think they're really not. But go ahead.
So you know, I can't argue that many people say that they feel some short-term relief of anxiety. They feel more calm, you know, all that. But just like other things, it has its side effects. And what a lot of people don't realize about marijuana is that it can increase your risk of psychosis.
Right.
So you can start having hallucinations. You can start having paranoia with this drug. And recent research studies have shown that it's more likely to cause psychosis than even cocaine, ecstasy, and some of these other drugs. And I actually learned of that recently at a continuing medical education seminar. So I was really shocked to see just even how drastically compared to even other substances.
Right.
Here's another thing. They did a study of some college students who take marijuana. They studied them freshman year all the way to the end of their sophomore year. And the average IQ of those students had dropped about 8 to 10 points. So we're now also seeing that it can delay your processing speed.
That's what I think. I think that, I think it causes delay. Your mind is not.
You're not sharp.
Right. Yeah, you're not clicking on all cylinders like you probably would with your normal, mindset.
Yeah, and I have to tread real lightly especially for college students, because people, it's like a friend for many people. Like, you know, it has in their mind helped them to cope. So I really have to be skillful in the way I bring that to some people and say, I don't think this is the way to go.
And I mean, another thing too is, like, you know, they got all these different types of marijuana, and which to me, I'm like, they got to be spraying chemicals on this stuff. This stuff cannot be healthy with all these chemicals on it. So I'm like, that is crazy, you know?
Yeah, because it's not a herb no more. It's basically
at that point, it's chemical. You smoking chemicals.
Yeah, it's a scientific project. Like
yeah. It's synthetic at that point. It's become synthetic. It's not organic anymore. It's synthetic.
And the synthetic marijuana is proven to be more dangerous. And vaping it is even more dangerous than smoking.
Yeah, they got all these different names, cookies and brownies, all these. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. It's getting crazy, you know. To me, it just, and it's. Well, it seems like it's in the Black community. I don't know. Maybe because
it is. I think it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
It's crazy. It's just crazy right now.
Yeah, because everybody's trying to get a liquid
Yeah.
It's to lose weight, or it's to drink their problems away or smoke their problems away. But once you come down off that high, you still late on your light bill. You still got to pay your mortgage. You still
reality.
Your problems are still there. So me, I don't think smoking will take away it'll take away the pain at that moment. But once you come off that high,
the pain's still there.
It's not even worse.
Still there. The bill's still there. Reality still exists.
Right.
We're
in the age now of instant gratification. Things are available at our fingertips. So I think it's in turn caused this situation where people, they externally reach out to cope. Right. Using their own internal skills. And so that's why meditation and mindfulness, back to your earlier point, Cleveland, that is a game changer, because then you have yourself as a resource to calm.
Yes. And what scares me the most is now in today's society, I'm seeing more younger people smoking all this synthetic marijuana, and and I just like man, I've never seen nothing like this before. Not at this capacity.
Yeah, because when we was growing up, it was not cool to be what I consider a junkie. Like, it wasn't cool. But now, I mean, that's the thing to be. If you sober, you are lame.
That's like you're not included. You're not in the end.
Yeah, if you sober, you're lame, and I'm like, oh,
crazy. I mean, this goes on as early as elementary school. They're smoking, because everybody want to feel included. Don't nobody want to feel left out.
That is a great point, because a lot of the teenagers, when I'm trying to figure out what is the function of marijuana for you, a lot of times they'll say, well, I won't have any friends because all my friends are doing it. I don't want to be the only one sitting there not doing it. So that social pressure is real. Yeah.
It's sad. It's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, and so with our kids, you mentioned the kids and everything. Which I know is really what's the youngest that a person, a child, like, can you do therapy for a 3-year-old or whatever? Too young?
Yes, 3-year-olds can go, and they usually have a form of therapy called play therapy. Okay. So you kind of get in tune with their emotions by drawing pictures, playing with dolls, and then you start getting more of this stuff. I don't personally see children that age, but yes, there are several resources for children out there.
Now, I've also researched that I know next year in the month of May, from May the 1st to May the 31st, is Mental Health Awareness Month. So is that May is the normal month, or it does it rotate?
It's every May of every year.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. And that's something I'm definitely gonna start, looking into that and participating, in some of the, because I mean we just grew up to not, don't tell your business, don't say nothing, hold it all in, be strong, be tough, and it has really hurt our community, because it's a lot of people out here that are suffering from this, and we don't even know.
Right.
We don't even know.
Because we received these messages growing up that vulnerability was weakness, but vulnerability with the right person is a source of strength. I mean, it's a sign of courage. It
really is.
Yes.
I agree with that totally.
So let me ask you this. What if you have a loved one, a spouse, that's dealing with, mental illness or whatever. And I know you kind of touched on it, but how do you reach out to a spouse, that's dealing with this?
I think very lovingly, in a very loving, compassionate, non-judgmental way, saying what you observe, offering to them what you used to see in them and what's happening now and how that feels different, highlighting that for them. And then even highlighting the impact, because mental health impacts the whole family unit, right? So even gently saying, this is how I'm being impacted, without labeling, without judging, but saying, it's impacting our marriage. We're not having as much fun. Remember this. You want to try to create
the atmosphere,
where you're reminding them of where they can be.
Right.
You know?
A more positive atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah. Also, were you done, Cleve? I'm sorry.
Yes, I was done.
Okay. Well, also, I wanted to say that, just to piggyback earlier when we was talking about, I forgot. But anyway, we were saying, but let me say this. I'm also a believer that mental health also is in your diet by what we consume as well.
I think everything impacts it. So the way I see mental health is from a model. So the biology of it, that includes your diet, how you take care of your body.
Right.
Are you exercising? You know, and
so it's not just your DNA, it's also in your diet.
Yeah, it's the genetics too, but yeah, those are, and there are even diets that help control certain things like ADHD.
Yeah.
You can get on a diet that helps with that. Autism. There are diets that you can help, promote better wellness with that.
They help fight cancer.
Right. So then there's the biology of depression, anxiety, mental health issues.
And then there's the nutrition.
The psychology of it.
Yeah.
That's how you think, how you relate, how you see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the social, and then there's the spiritual. And I think all those components come together to impact resilience or to put you at risk if you're not, functioning at the right level for each of those facets.
Yeah. I think they all correlate with one another.
Yeah, it does, because it basically helps to build it builds you up. That helps to build you up.
Right.
That's a great diagram that you just showed, because I talked to a couple of friends, and I'm trying to get them, to look into therapy.
Mm-hmm.
They think nothing is wrong, and I'm saying no. And I tell them it's nothing. I don't think it's something wrong with you, but just from the conversations that we have, I'm like, I'm not a therapist, but if y'all keep coming to me like that, I'm gonna have to start charging y'all because now you got me, need more therapy.
Acres on the job.
Yeah, is it? Does therapists typically see therapists?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not, then that's a problem. I mean, they're not in therapy all the time. But I think, there are times when you go to therapy to make sure you're okay and sorting out your stuff so that you can be more available to, your patients.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I read about mental health, it says it doubles for people who've been in war or who've been in major disasters. So.
Absolutely. So combat trauma is totally a huge risk factor for PTSD and depression.
Yeah.
That's actually my specialty area.
Right.
And I used to work at the VA hospital and used to run a residential program for the Iraqi veterans. So it is certainly an area that we need more specialists, to tackle and to kind of team up with us to address.
So, I believe that most of us that lived in the inner city as kids, that grew up in the, especially in the crack era where there was drugs and violence and guns, I think we have some form of PTSD.
Absolutely, you can, and you can be traumatized and not have PTSD.
Right.
Okay, so PTSD is meaning that you're manifesting some of the symptoms of the illness. So like you're having nightmares, you're having flashbacks, you're vigilant when you're out in your area, but you can still have a trauma and have been somewhat resilient where you don't develop PTSD.
Right. But I think sometimes we see those things when we're growing up, when we see these incidents occur, we become so numb to them. And I think that's also makes us very insensitive. So I think what does that fall under?
The emotional numbness.
Yes.
It is a trauma-based symptom. Sometimes it's part of PTSD. Sometimes you just have that isolated symptom or maybe a set of symptoms that don't meet criteria. But that is a huge issue. And I would say that sometimes it comes from you not receiving nurturance or someone not validating your emotions when you were growing up, or dismissing things you said or felt. And so in turn, you begin to model that behavior for your own children. It becomes a generational cycle.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah, that's real deep.
Yeah,
That's real deep. And I'm really enjoying this conversation because this is something that we need.
no doubt.
We don't talk about it enough. And like I was saying, I have friends that I'm like, hey, listen, I mean, go sit down and talk to someone, because they don't have a dog in the fight, and they're gonna give you, some good advice, and give you tools, because that's what happened. That's what happened with me, because I didn't realize that, before I was going to see a therapist, that that I was having, just problems with my things that happened to me in my childhood. So when I started going to therapy, my therapist would ask me, well, hey, what do you like to do? And I would say what I like to do. And she'd be like, no, that don't sound like something you would like to do. That sounds like something, your child or your wife would like to do. She was like, what do you like to do? I really had to, like I've said on this podcast before, I had to go a whole year dating myself.
Right.
I didn't know, for 13 years I was married, and I didn't know what I like to do, because all I was doing was working, coming home, doing what my family like to do, but not real, not even spending time with myself. So for a whole year, like a year and some months, I dated myself. I
love it.
riding my bike. I became vegan. I mean, I just started doing all types of different things. And I had to find myself, because it was crazy. But
go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, and it was amazing that, wow, I didn't know what I like to do.
Right. Well, let me tell you something, Cleveland. A lot of people die not knowing who they are.
That's true. Yeah. That's deep. And go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just beaming with, like, first of all, I'm proud because it's my classmate, from high school. But I'm also just beaming with, like, pride that you have become this leader, in terms of, like, ushering people by using your own story, by being a testimony. Yeah. And I think that people are going to see your journey, and that's going to probably make them more apt to go in. And I appreciate that you are vulnerable enough to share, how you're feeling and how you've grown, because that is what we all need to do individually in this society to destigmatize mental illness.
Right. So, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, because it was a lot of things that I was dealing with, but also, so we definitely want, to put it out there that, to get help and everything.
Yeah.
You, Dr. DeJean, can you put out your information to, get people who may, watch this podcast?
Get arrested. Hell, I may get some, but I would like to do mine more virtual, because I'm always moving around. Do they do virtual?
Yeah.
Virtual visits. That was like one of the most, paradoxical thing. Like, now I'm able to see patients in Athens and Savannah, Georgia. So, some of the good things that's come out of this pandemic is some people are more able to access care because they don't have to drive, to the office. And I primarily do virtual because I see more busy professionals. So, yes, I'm at the Georgia Psychological Treatment Center in Marietta, Georgia. I am primarily doing virtual right now. And the number to the center is 404-426-5382. So we are seeing new patients. We have therapists in the office as well. We have about 7 therapists or so. So yes, you can call and schedule if you need to.
Okay.
It's important, and we definitely in our community we got to get it done because we deal with so much that you know, inside our community, outside our community,
On the job,
yes,
childhood incidents.
yes, and we have to get help. We really do. And like I said, I was excited to do this because me and Dan, we talk about this all the time, but we had to bring on, you know, someone who actually, you know, knows what they talking about. We just talking, you know, like, hey, I need to get help. And they like, yeah, all right. You don't know nothing.
Yeah. So another thing, in the month of May, what is it that you guys do for the mental illness? Like, do y'all have like some type of events going on and stuff like that? What is it that you guys do in the month of May?
So a lot of us will put awareness posts out through social media. A lot of times we'll partner with the YMCA to offer depression screenings. Sometimes we'll partner with NAMI or DBSA and kind of go along with whatever programs they're throwing. But, you know, for me, community education is something I'm passionate about, and I try to do it all year, not just, you know, in the month of May. So I appreciate this opportunity to kind of shed light on some major issues.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get with you because I definitely want to you know, maybe look into you know, doing some volunteer, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. In my mind, I was thinking, you know, if I guess I fly in the month of May. That's why I was asking were there any activities I would like to just join in and you know, try to be more active.
And I wonder what that would look like as far as like you said with the YMCA, you know, dealing with the youth, you know, dealing with the youth. Do they have a lot of programs that help to, you know, help the youth like this?
Oh, absolutely. I know the oh my goodness, what is the YMCA that's in Midtown? I can't remember the name, but they do so many outreach programs even for homeless youth. I can't remember the name of that Y. So there are different things out there, and you can probably just call NAMI and see what type of activities they're doing for Mental Health Month, and they're always looking for volunteers.
You said in Midtown? Midtown?
Yeah, Author Blank YMCA. It's really good for you know, doing things for kids.
Okay. Okay.
They even have their own daycare.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any more questions, Brother Clean?
I don't.
Once again, thank you for coming. We appreciate you.
Yes, we definitely appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll definitely bring you on.
And we want to bring you on some more as well.
Yes.
And if you have any other therapists who can come in, you know, we're just trying to build our community. To me, this is part of my therapy.
Yeah.
Every time I do this, I'm always, you know, I feel better each time. I don't care if I got one person listening.
Because we learn so much every time. Every time.
We learn from each other, right? So
it's
great. Thank you.
So once again, leave your information one more time.
Can I put it in the chat or can they see it?
No, they can't see.
You won't be able to see
it.
Okay. But they listening though, so they can
Okay, so
you can just repeat the number and the address. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm at Georgia Psychological Treatment Center. It's 1640 Powers Ferry Road in Marietta, Georgia. And the number to the office 404-426-5382. And you make sure that you speak to the person and tell them how you found us. And, you know, if you're seeking, let us know that this was the way you found us. That would be elating to know that this vehicle is the reason why you're coming in.
Okay. And tell them Browns Bay sent y'all here.
Browns Bay. Browns Bay, baby. Oh, that's great.
So yeah. Again, we appreciate you. You're always welcome to come on this platform. We're all about positivity. We just talk about things in the community, a variety of subjects. On that note, we out. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.
Bye-bye.